I would like to come back to a couple of questions that were pending from the previous presentation, and we have a couple of new ones. Maybe because this was very hot, there is a question about where can the requirements document be found and whether it is available on our web pages. It will be made available shortly after the webinar, so basically if you check later today, or later tonight perhaps, or tomorrow morning, you should be finding the document on the website of 5G VINNI. Going back to the other questions, there was one question that was connected, in fact, to the different layers of orchestration that were presented and elaborated by Paul. And the question was, what type of API will be available to interact with such layers? Could you, Paul, give an answer to that?
Just what type of KPIs that will be connected with different orchestration layer?
No, APIs.
API, okay.
What type of API will be available to interact with the layers, the orchestration layers?
Okay, yeah. Yeah, okay. So I see. I think I also saw another question related to that. But so it's in a way, it depends also a bit on what is required by ICT 19. So we will not make available everything, because it was also a question around what type of devices are programmable. And I mean, most of the solutions we have are programmable. But we will not expose all APIs to everything in the infrastructure. It really depends also a bit on what is required by ICT 19 projects, and that's also something that we expect input on from ICT 19 projects, like what do you need, what type of APIs will you need. But definitely APIs around exposing the slices on the end-to-end service orchestration layer is something that we plan to make available. But if you need deeper layer orchestration APIs, then we would like to hear from you, because it's also related to security, what we would like to expose. But that's certainly things we can look into. So I need some more specific inputs on that. I'm not sure, Duncan, if you want to fill in on that.
Well, maybe I can give a word to one of the site operators. Maybe they have more concrete suggestions of what or ideas of what type of APIs will be made available. I don't know, Christos or Diego or Paul BT, do you want to say anything on that?
Well, this is Diego. In general, I mean, it was, as Paul said, this has a strong security implications, and it has strong implications in terms that we're talking about infrastructures that will be shared by several experiments, probably at the same time, and that would imply that, and that would be several ICT 19 projects. That implies that if someone comes or wants to manipulate the orchestration mechanism, the people running the different 5G VINNI sites will have to take care of providing a fair share of services, or no, sorry, of resources to everyone. We cannot simply, hand over the orchestration. That there is some need for a particular control of the orchestration API, well, this is something that we can discuss. Anyway, take into account that one of the things that we are thinking right now is precisely in terms of offering the basic service in 5G VINNI will be precisely a slice. Inside the slice, you can build whatever you want. I mean, this will be precisely one of the main goals of what the project intends to do, is precisely providing a consistent slicing service. If we are talking about orchestration inside the slice, I think it would be doable. Probably not in the initial version of the project, because this is a challenge. But deploying an orchestration engine or an NFV orchestrator or a cloud orchestrator inside a slice is something that, well, looks doable. Anyway, it's something that we have to deal with, and this is something that we have to analyze. Take into account that this is something that has not been, there are no standards for this. There is no guarantee that this is something that is going to be exactly as the ICT 19 project would like it to be, and there will be a need for an interaction between the ICT 19 project and the 5G VINNI participants, and that probably will have adaptations, etc., that are not part of the essential service, but require some effort, and this is something that has to be quantified, as Duncan was illustrating. So, as a summary, it could be possible, but not necessarily easy.
Okay, thank you, Diego. I think we should go on and take a close look to the next question that is pending, which might be already answered, at least from UK, and that is what UEs, so user equipment, so user end devices, and especially modems, will be given and or supported. Now, Paul Marsham from the UK facility, so from BT, has answered that Samsung will be providing a set of UEs over the lifetime of the project, including modems and handsets. We also expect to be able to support UEs from other sources, subject to their connection to the Samsung RAN. Anyone want to answer this question also? Because I think it has more than that as an answer.
Yeah, so it's Paul from Telenor, the coordinator. I will give some input on this, because I think the first thing is that the end user devices is not really part of the scope in 5G VINNI. So from that point of view, we expect ICT 19 projects to come with user equipment themselves. Having said that, we do, of course, plan to have some end user devices and UEs for validation, because we need that when validating the platform ourselves. And but I'm not really sure if they are usable for the ICT 19 projects. That all depends on what type of UEs that is required. But that's something, of course, we can discuss if some of those validation UEs can be used by the ICT 19 projects. But the number is not very big. And there is also a specification that we have not published, so we are still looking into that to get more devices for validation. But no, it's expected to be part of the ICT 19 project.
Okay, thanks, Paul. So the general rule, in fact, or the general answer to that question is that ICT 19 projects should look to cover the necessary UEs that they want to have or they require for their trials and experiments. Okay, there is another question which I thought might be touched upon by Duncan, but it was not, as far as I can tell. The question is whether there is a minimum number of use cases validation for ICT 19 projects. So basically the limits of the infrastructure. Now, I guess this is a very hard question because we don't know, of course, the size of the ICT 19 requirements, but maybe Paul or Duncan, can you take that?
Yeah, so I'm not fully sure I understand the question, but let me try to interpret, because if it's the number of simultaneous slices that can run for validation in an infrastructure, if that is the question, I'm not sure if that's clearly specified in all the facility sites yet. But I think like what we provision for is that we can run something around at least 4 simultaneous slices. That's at least for the Norway facility site, meaning it involves the instantiation of a core and other VNFs. But I think the actual planning and roadmap for running the use cases is something we need to take depending on the load and the request by ICT 19 projects. So, but and it's also something that we will look into when we get the request from the ICT19 projects. So, but so far it does not seem to be a problem, and we can accommodate that. But it's also depending on the resources that we have on our side, not only the physical resources, but also on the human resources to actually help on doing it. So it also, as I said, also in my slides, is that we expect you to provision resources for, I mean human resources for running your experiments. But so far, and if there should be any limitations on the physical resources or the infrastructure resources, then we will of course notify you. But that's not a problem at this point in time. And we might also look into doing time division between using the facility sites if that should be a problem.
Okay, thank you, Paul.
Could I say one thing, Tassos, regarding these questions?
Yes.
I think there is get in touch with the site so you can get a requirements document, fill it out as best you can, and then send it to us, because I think that we can answer, all can answer questions here. But if you can provide us, the projects can provide us with a little bit more information of what they're actually expecting or thinking, then we can have a much better consideration internally within 5G VINNI of how we can support it and what can be done for the ICT19 projects. So I would say, get in touch with us and get a requirements form so you can just fill out a little bit more for us and we give a much better answer.
Okay, thank you, Duncan. There is one more technical question, which is about, well, can you tell us which network components are programmable? That's a very tricky one, I guess, because normally you should be able to deploy in the virtualized infrastructure whatever you like, indeed. Paul?
Yeah, so I tried to respond very shortly on that during the API question, because so in fact most of the devices and system components that we have in 5G VINNI are programmable, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we expose the programmability directly to ICT19 projects. So because some of it, like we have switches, we have storage, compute using virtualization, software-defined storage, software-defined networking, OpenStack, and so forth. So, there's a lot of programmability in there. But again, it's also back to what type of programmability we would like to expose and what we can expose, in fact, due to security. But so, what we more would like to see is in a requirement document, as Duncan put out, is what type of programmability do you need, and can we actually support that? Then we can look into it. But it's a very broad question, and we have a lot of programmability, to say it like that.
Okay, thank you, Paul. One more question, which is on the type of support. So the question here is, can all facility sites support connectivity and KPI testing with all typical 5G use cases like smart cities, smart healthcare, automotive industry 4.0, smart homes?
Yeah, so I can respond to that as well. In principle, yes, we are kind of use case agnostic, so we can do that. But it also depends on what type of requirements you have for these use cases. But as I said, we have support for the different slice types defined by 3GPP, which should be okay to cover most of these use cases from a general perspective. And I also talked about the difference between the main facility sites and the experimentation facility sites. But in principle, yes. You can also go into the facility site's description to see where, say, for instance, massive machine type communication or NB-IoT or LTM, or what you require from that is supported. So please fill me in if you have other comments from the other facility sites.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Yes, indeed, if there is any comment from the other facility sites, please feel free to comment. I would like to comment, in fact, or to emphasize what Paul said, which is the difference between the main facility sites and the experimentation facility sites. So you can assume that from the main site you can get a higher level of commitment and support than from the experimentation sites. Because the whole facility is designed in a way that these main facility sites shall be able to provide, if you like, SLAs and commitments that are stronger than from the experimentation sites. But nevertheless, please contact us, and then we can actually verify and validate the support that even also the experimentation sites can give you. There is one more question about, it's a kind of a very general one, which is, are there more details about massive MTC? Anyone want to take this one?
I can take that one as well. So I think when it comes to the slice type, massive machine type communication, it is, should I say that? I mean, 3GPP standardization on that is still ongoing, right? But when it comes to the underlying support in core networks, for instance, or in radio networks, what we also state that for the different facility sites where we can support like NB-IoT, LTM, which basically is 4G capabilities that is being brought into 5G, and we create a slice type for it. So we do support that in some facility sites, and if that's please have a look at the description for that. But I mean, for the details of how to create those slice templates, for you, this is work that is undergoing right now. What we do is that we promise to do it, and whether that will be according to 3GPP is also depending on when those standards are maturing, so that we can use them.